it's crazy, baby, bro. Like I watched Married with Children. In my mind, I still see it like, hey, there's nothing wrong with it. Like it's caught up with the times. I mean, just like the footage and the picture of it. It's the best taco. I think you said you had a fish taco, shrimp taco, and I forgot you had like 3 tacos.
Yeah, I had 3 little tacos. It was two.
All right, what's up, familia? Welcome inside the pad. Hope you guys are doing good. Keep in between the lines. Got your load secure, man. Oh man, oh man. From sea to shining sea, baby. First time I ever went to the Big Apple to New York, and got a lot to talk about. Now, here's what's gonna happen here on this video right here. I'm gonna go ahead and you're gonna hear me just pontificating for about a good 20, 30 minutes about my experience and what I saw and a little bit of the differences from both cities. We're not doing any of this LA versus New York or any of that stuff, homie. All I'm gonna do is just point out some of the differences and the culture and the differences in the cities, man. All respectful all the time, all the time. So if anybody's in here for some sort of disrespect, whatever, kick sticks, homie. And in about 20, 30 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and have my boy Prone from New York. He's gonna be on here and we're gonna chop it up, man. A true New Yorker right there. All right. Let me say what's up to everybody on here. Man, I was reading some of these comments. Unforgiven. You know what? A lot of bad things have happened in the past, man. It's unfortunate. But yeah, I believe it, man. What's up, Vanessa, Adrian, Don? Yole Ori Familia. What's up, Lord Spike? Derek, how you doing, big dog? Iron, hombre, what's up, man? How you doing, Jenny? All right, so this was my first time going to New York. All right, and I've been wanting to go for a long time. I was waiting for the Dodgers to go play the Yankees. Boom, it finally happened, and that was the original reason why we went. But I wanted to go check out the city. Now, here's the thing. I wanted to go check out, yes, some of the tourist things, but I wanted to see the actual city itself, the way people actually do live, right? It's like when you come to LA, um, you go check out like the Hollywood sign, you go check out uh Universal City Walk, you go check out Hollywood, you go check out, you go to all these tourist places, man, where the everyday person, man, from LA, they're not really there hanging out like that for the most part, right? So wanted to go and check everything out. So let me go ahead and get started. What's up, Buzz? How you doing, homie? So let me go ahead and get started, man. So the first thing that the first thing that I noticed when I first got outside of the airport were the bridges. Okay, the bridges. In LA, the bridges that connect Los Angeles and East LA, yeah, they're bridges, homie, but you're not crossing over big bodies of water like that. You're crossing over the LA River, which rarely has any water in it at all. Okay. The bridges, okay, that connect, the whole city. Um, the lights, the buildings, everywhere you look, it was just buildings, building upwards, just, you know, apartments, 20, 25, 30, 40 stories high, right? Where here, um, I remember when they started with 3-story apartment buildings, and that was kind of rare. It's like, damn, they're at a 3-story apartment building. That was kind of, and even today it's a little bit rare to see a 3, 4-story apartment building. They're around, they're around. You'll find them here and there, but I'm talking about over there, Holmes. It's like 2, 3, 4-story apartments. Like, nah, Charlie, homie. They're rocking and rolling, dog, with, like I said, 15, 20, 30, stories high, and that is normal. That is everywhere. That is for miles. That is block after block after block after block, man. It is just a lot of building upwards, a lot of building upwards. Even the houses that I seen, they were just built up, man. Everything was, connected but built up. Where here, there's a lot more room. I would definitely say that um, LA is bigger when you talk about the ground that it covers. But New York is bigger due to population just because, man, those buildings just go up, dog. I did not get a chance to go to all five boroughs of New York. Okay. Shout outs to Queens and Staten Island. I didn't get a chance to go hang out over there. I got a chance to hang out in the Bronx. We stayed in the Bronx, went to Manhattan, and went to Brooklyn. No matter where I went, no matter where I went, people were outside. People were outside walking around no matter where I went. What's up, Big D? Um, everybody, people were outside, man, walking around, getting from point A to point B to point C, wherever it is that they're going. People were outside walking around. It didn't really matter where I went in the city. People were outside walking around. Everybody already knows the train stations that's huge over there. And I'm gonna tell you guys, yeah, it is. The only time we used an Uber was from the airport to the hotel. Outside of that, nothing but train. Nothing but train. You are forced to be amongst people. You are. You're forced to be amongst people. You don't necessarily need to mingle. I mean, being from the big city, being from LA, you're not really walking down the street telling everybody hi. I've gone to other places in the country where you go to, cities and everything, and people tell each other hi, like very polite, like hi, good morning and everything. In LA, you don't really do that. And from what I saw in New York, you don't really do that too much either. You just kind of just, hey, just walk, man. Mind your business. Everybody minds their business. Boom, just go, man. A toda madre. But people are moving. People are moving. People are jaywalking. Now, I do believe they stopped jaywalking here. If anybody can let me know, let me know. But I do believe that's it. They're not doing jaywalking anymore. But yet, I don't really see too many people just jaywalking. I'm talking about people go, the light is red, but there's no car coming, and people just start walking. The coast is clear. The coast is clear. People just start walking, homie. Ain't nobody waiting for, the green light or to have the little figure show them that, hey, it's time for you to walk. It's the coast is clear. The coast is clear. People just start walking. Heck, we started doing it too. I'm like, hey, there's freedom, dog. Ain't no car coming. Let's go. Let's cross. But people outside all the time, all the time. Everybody just walking around outside all the time. We're here, everybody's in their car. Everybody's in their car. There's a lot of driving. I did see cars out there. There was traffic, not not traffic like there is here. That is to the best of my knowledge for the short time that I was there. Okay. Here, if you're gonna be from Pomona and you want to get to downtown, I think you're gonna have a little bit of harder time as opposed to say, if you're in the Bronx and trying to get to Brooklyn or something. I mean, there's traffic, don't get me wrong, but because public transportation um is a lot better over there, I see most people using public transportation here. I mean, what do we got? We got the Metro Link, and not too many people use that because that doesn't really take you around the city, dog. That's a one-way trip and back. That it's the trains here. It's not, and some people don't even know this, dog. There's an actual subway station in Los Angeles, in downtown. Some people don't even know that. But again, that's not really going to get you around town. Not like New York. Not like New York, homie. New York, there's all these trains, all these rails going here, there, and everywhere, man. And I thought it was pretty cool, dog. Now, those New Yorkers, I'll tell you this, man, they got good balance, man, because that train is rocking and rolling, man. It's not like that much of a smooth ride, and they're not falling over. You could tell who wasn't from New York. All right. You're over there stumbling back and forth, like, damn, dog, this sucker's moving, Holmes. Um, but yeah, public transportation over there, especially the trains, man, it is booming. It is booming. Now I'll tell you guys this, all right? I paid for the train here and there. For the most part, at least from what I saw, people just jump it. People jump it, or there's that emergency exit that if somebody's already on that side, they just go ahead and open it and people just walk in. Some people are paying, to ride the train. A lot of people just jump it, just like you see in the movies. You just put your two hands right there, kick your legs over, and even though there was security right there, I saw people just jumping it. Dog, I saw a dude with a cane, a dude that had trouble walking. He jumped it. Well, he didn't really jump it, but he was like kind of like crawling over it. And security was right there. Security didn't say like, "Hey, excuse me, sir, you got to pay." He was there with his cane, just like getting over and everything. And I was just like, "Damn, security didn't tell him anything." But that's that's a major difference over here, dog. Over here, everybody's driving. Everybody's driving. Yeah, you got some people that might use the Metro Link. You got some people that ride the bus. I remember when I was a kid, we always had to ride the bus and stuff like that. But no, dog. For the most part, man, you're driving. You're driving over here because you got a lot of land to cover. You have a lot of land to cover. Um, the food, which was one big thing. Okay, a lot of pizzerias. A lot of pizzerias. Okay. Just the way you see a lot of taquerias out here, just pizzerias. Pizzerias, man. Every 2 blocks or whatever, pizzerias. Delis. Fresh delis. Man, we had this sandwich called the chopped cheese. All right. We were in Little Italy in the Bronx. And we went to get this chopped cheese sandwich. Dog, that sucker was bomb, Bay Holmes. But I took footage of that. They had just everything fresh laid out. It wasn't like Subway or anything like that, man. It was just this fresh deli. Just dog, man. And that's the thing, man. That's the thing. I remember hearing a little bit about, and I see you guys' comments, man. I'll get to them in a second. I remember hearing about people talking about, oh man, you know what the government's gonna do? They're gonna do these 15-minute cities where you don't travel anywhere. It's a conspiracy. I'll tell you guys this, homie. I'll tell you guys this. We traveled around the entire cities because we're tourists. But just living there in your everyday to day life, I think you could pretty much find everything within 15 minutes of your surroundings. You got all the apartments upstairs. You go downstairs and there's stores just everywhere, everywhere. Eh, It's like here. That's what I'm saying. Here, you got to drive, man, because you got your residential area and you got to get out of your residential area to go somewhere. There are a few places where you do have a few stores here and there, your local, liquor store or a barber shop or, a little small taco stand or something like that. Yeah, within residential areas, depending on where you live. But for the most part, it's all residential. And you got to get out of that residential area to get to stores where there everything I saw, Holmes, you just go downstairs. You go downstairs, and within 3 blocks, man, you pretty much got almost everything that you need. So you just walk over there, walk over here, walk across the street, get everything you need, homie, and damn, there you go. Back to your apartment. I will say this, man. Like we got a chance to what's up? What's up, YouTube streets? I will say this, man. When it came to the people, right? The people themselves, because I was hearing like, oh man, they're all a bunch of a-holes over there. They're all a bunch of a-holes, right? I mean, it's not like you come to LA, homie, and everybody's all super nice and everything like that. Everybody just kind of sticks to their own. Um, Here's something, and this to the best of my knowledge. Again, I want to make it very clear, homie. I am not trying to say that this is the way it is in New York. Okay. I'm very, very limited. I'm just telling you guys what I saw. New York is a big melting pot with a bunch of different cultures, right? So is LA. The difference that I was kind of able to see in the melting pots is that in LA, it's a little bit more segregated. It's like you go to Glendale, that's where you got the Armenians, right? You go to Little Tokyo, that's where you got the Japanese. You go to this certain part of LA, you go to that part of LA, and that's where you find more of these kind of people, those kind of people, whatever it may be. Where in New York, it kind of seemed like it was kind of mixed all the way around. For the most part, man, I could be 1,000% wrong, but like every time I would walk outside, it was just mixed, dog. It was just mixed. Everybody walking around was just mixed. I couldn't tell, like, hey, is this like a black part of town? Is this a Puerto Rican part of town? Is this an Asian part of town? An Italian part of town? Now, when I went to Little Italy in the Bronx, which there's a Little Italy in Manhattan, but I was told by the locals, go to Little Italy in the Bronx because the Manhattan Little Italy is more tourist. So I'm like, all right, let's go to that one. Which that side of the Bronx, that's the side where I was able to chop it up with some Italian guy. Man, he had this deep Italian New York accent, man. It was badass, homie. Just like you see, like in the mob movies, this dude had that hardcore accent. It was freedom as heck, dog. I was like, hell yeah, dog. That's what's up. That's what I want to hear. Um, but what he would what he was telling me was that on that side of the Bronx, which I guess is the north side of the Bronx, right there, the train does not travel that well. So there's a lot more, and that I was able to see that on that side of the Bronx. I was able to see a lot more cars driving and a lot more buses because it just seemed like there wasn't many train stations on that side of the Bronx. But yeah, like I said, LA is a big melting pot, but a little bit more sliced up. Like, oh, that's that side of town where this ethnicity stays at. This is more. It's 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 a little bit more gentrified today than it was before. So, but what I saw in New York, it was very mixed. And when I went and maybe before it was a little bit more segregated. I'm over here thinking like the movie A Bronx Tale, right? When Colosio was walking homegirl home and there was that bridge and he couldn't go past that bridge, right? Because I was a black side of town, dog, and he was Italian. So, you know, I'm thinking that, and I'm sure New Yorkers kind of look at, say, Boulevard Nights or something, and they're like, oh man, it must be like that over there. We got just nothing but movies to go off on. But no, man, I went to Little Italy in the Bronx, and there was raza out there. Now, let me talk about the the culture out there when it comes to the gente, okay? Because I'm about to bring on a Puerto Rican. Shouts to all the Boricuas. I was at the Puerto Rican festival. It was badass, man. Let me go in and speak on this. Okay, for one, I rarely ever hear the term Latino over here in LA. I have heard the term. I'm familiar with the term. but I don't really hear it the way I hear the word raza or gente, right? Where in New York, at least what was capturing my ears was a lot of Latino, which is cool. Latinos, it's not offensive or anything, but I don't hear Latino over here, the term Latino, as much as I do, like I said, raza, right? Or gente, right? We're over there. I heard Latino a lot, a lot. The term Latino was all over the place. Um, the Latinos over there, a lot of Boricuas, man, and they are very proud, very proud. I don't know if it was just because it was Puerto Rican weekend, but definitely a lot of flags. They got it on the hood of the car. They decorate their car with it. When I went to the Yankee game, some Dominicans out there all Yankeed out, waving the Dominican flag. Um, the Espanol, Holmes. Okay, let's talk about that real quick. Okay, so it was it's a little bit of a culture shock, homie. It is, dog, right? Um, yes, definitely a lot of Espanol being spoken over there. Okay, however, it's a different accent. Okay, it's kind of strange. I wonder if it's like that with all languages, right? Because when we hear, say, like an Asian speaking, we just kind of, or I just kind of say like, oh, it's an Asian speaking, whatever, Japanese or whatever. Do they capture some sort of accent? Is there a difference of the accent? I don't know, but now hearing, the way they talk Spanish, I could definitely hear a difference of an accent. I guess I would say, you know, here we could speak English, but speaking to, somebody from London who speaks English, yeah, we're both speaking English, but the way they pronounce their words, there's a different accent. Heck, even here in the United States, right? You could talk to somebody from Alabama, you could talk to somebody from Boston, you could talk to somebody from Chicago, you could talk to somebody from New York, and somebody from, Minnesota, and you're going to capture a little bit of a different accent. So when I was hearing them speak Spanish, I was just like, okay, all right, yeah, yeah, it's definitely Espanol, absolutely, but I could definitely, capture a different accent that is being used, man. What's up, Vic? Um, the food. Okay, the food. Let's get to the food, man. Because the food was a big deal for me, as well. For one, okay, pizza was huge for me because I kept hearing on how great the pizza is in New York. Okay, yes, it's good. Now, maybe my expectations were a little bit too high. I didn't taste the pizza. We ate a lot of pizza. We went to Luzo's. We went Little Italy restaurant. A couple of places. Yeah, the slices of pizza are bigger. You usually fold it like a taco to eat it, and it's good. It's definitely good. I'm not saying it's not good. It's 100% damn good. I maybe, like I said, maybe my expectations were just a little bit too high because I was just like, okay, it's good, but I don't know. Maybe I was just a little let down and I was just expecting more. Maybe that's what it was. However, we ate a lot of Italian food. The um What I have, the fettuccine with sausage and spinach. Good gosh, homie, that sucker was Bombay, man. It really was, with the portobello mushrooms and everything. Damn, some of the look. I was opening up the menu, and I'd be asking like, "Hey, what is this? I don't know what this means," But um, no, dog. I mean, they got good food out there. They really do. Now they do have, from what I was being told, a lot of Mexicans had made their way out there as well. And I did see some taco spots, not the way you do here. Okay, not the way you do here. It's not even close. All right, but I did see some raza out there. Chopped it up with them a little bit, and I never tried Mexican food out there. I figured, why? I want to try Italian food. I want to try all this other food that I'm not really sure you really get the real true stuff like that here on this side. You probably got to go look for it. I'm sure there's some great Italian restaurants here in Los Angeles that's pretty authentic, but you got to go look for it. Okay, over there, it's everywhere, homie. It is everywhere, and it was a blast, dog. It was a blast and a half, homie. The tourist attractions, those were cool, but I'm telling you guys this. While the tourist attractions, you got to do it like the 9/11 Memorial, the the Statue of Liberty. Those are all tourist attractions. You got to do those if you go, okay? But there's nothing like actually mingling with the actual gente, man, with the actual people that are actually there. Coney Island was badass, man, and I love Coney Island just because of the movie The Warriors. You know what I mean? What One of my favorite movies of all time, hands down, man. I love Coney Island. But hey, check this out, man. I'm gonna go ahead and I see you guys right there in the chats. What's up, Mile High? Queen B, Cule. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna bring in a true New Yorker, man, and we're gonna chop it up and just talk a little bit about the differences, man. From coast to coast, from sea to shining sea, man. So from the Bronx, let's go ahead and let's bring in Prone. What's up, big
Yeah,
dog?
how you doing, brother?
Good, good, good. How about yourself, homie?
Good, good, man. I'm loud and clear for the people.
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right, all right.
Yeah, man. So you know, you and I connected because you saw my videos that I was making while I was out there. I was excited. I just happened to be there at the time of a Puerto Rican festival, and it really caught my attention, man, because they were doing it big, man. Talk a little bit about, were you born and raised in New York?
Yeah, I was born and raised in the Bronx. Um, I was born in 179th and Park Ave in the BX, which is right now, which is funny. That's 5 blocks away from where Trump did the rally in the park in Katona
Mm,
Park.
mhm.
So that's the straight. Anybody that knows the BX, bro, that's the straight hood right there. From there, I was born there, and then say junior high school. Parents broke up. Mom, we moved to a little better area in the Bronx called Pelham Parkway. Anybody knows the Bronx? Pelham Park was a little more middle class, and I spent my my high school years there, 10th, 11th, 12th. Then we moved back to 204th and Decatur in the BX. So that's where I'm at now. That's called the Norwood section of Bronx. Still, it's still gully out there, but I got a house out there, and that's where I've been ever since. My family's been in New York since the 40s, bro. So there's nothing about that city I can't talk about. Um, I ran those streets, I survived those streets. And I'm in my 50s, so I got to see the 80s, a little bit of the 70s, got to
Mm.
see the 90s when they had to put in the 1994 crime bill because in 1992 there was 2,000 murders in New York. So, I'm official tissue, brother. So, and yeah, when I was watching your video, I caught you by accident, right? I was I have no social media, but I
Right.
love YouTube. That's like my little entertainment. So I was looking at you. I saw this. It pops up, and I saw a cholo talking about he was in New York, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I clicked on it, and I see you walking around with 49. I
Mhm.
was like, okay, okay. So I was like, yo, homie, where he really went in deep. He really wanted. He didn't want to be in the vacation spots. He wanted to go
Right.
into the trenches. So I was like, all right. So then I caught another video of you in it's called really the 116 Festival. And
Okay.
I saw the look on your face, and I remember, man, in 1990, I went to San Diego. We had a prima out there that, a cousin of mine, where my uncle and his moms, they broke up when they was young, and she took her daughter out to San Diego. We went out to Imperial Beach, me, my pops, my uncle. And when I went out there, man, I was like, it was cool, but it was a different world.
Mm.
I was enjoying it, but the look. So when I looked in, I saw the look on your face. You was enjoying it, but you was like, "Wow, I'm in a different planet." So I threw a couple of comments to you, and we built back and forth, and you could tell. You could always tell by little things. You could tell who you're talking to. So you invited me on, and we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, man. No, let's definitely talk about it, man. Cause I'm looking at it through my tourist eyes, right? And just like how you mentioned, yeah, I went to Manhattan, but I really wanted to just mingle with the people. Now, one thing, at least for me, being out here on the West Coast, every time I hear New York, I hear either the Bronx or Brooklyn. Very rarely do I ever hear Staten Island. Very rarely do I ever hear Queens. Very rarely do I even hear about Manhattan. It's always Brooklyn and Bronx. And I was always curious, why is it those two? Is
All
there a
right,
lot of
I'll break it. I'll,
artists
I'll
that
break it down.
come up from there?
I'll break it down.
Mm,
Brooklyn and the Bronx are probably the most realest boroughs in New York City. The real character of New York City is in those two boroughs. Manhattan is Manhattan has no middle class.
mm,
Manhattan's either super rich or lower income. Maybe it's gotten better now, but bro, trust me, in the 70s and 80s, if you lived in Manhattan and you was either a blanco and you had straight up money, or you was living in Harlem, Spanish Harlem, Lower East Side, and your family was on the system, and it is what it is. So as far as the boroughs go, the way I could break it down is the Bronx is 80% the hood. There's
mm,
good areas of the Bronx, but the Bronx is 80% the hood. Brooklyn, where most of my family's from, they're from Sunset Park, um, the Sunset Park area of Brooklyn. So, like my moms and my pops, we touched down in the Bronx, but my family, most of them live in Brooklyn. I would say Brooklyn is like 60% hood, 40% middle class.
okay.
Queens is mostly middle class. If you move from the Bronx to Queens, you coming up. That's a come up.
Okay.
Staten Island is the suburbs. If you move from, let's say you live in Brooklyn or you live in Staten Island, and you move to, I mean, you live in the Bronx and you move to Staten Island, you just went to the suburbs. There's hardly no big apartment buildings there. Everything is residential. So when people think about that New York flavor, it's really those two boroughs where the street life is really for real.
Mm,
Between the two, the Bronx is the most dangerous borough in New York City. Nobody could deny that. That's just a fact. Brooklyn has a bigger population, but if you wanted to watch yourself, even a Brooklynite to tell you, you know what I'm saying, the Bronx is a war zone. So that's the reason you always hear about those two boroughs the most. As far as a culture, the New York accent, it's built more in the Brooklyn accent. You hear that typical New York accent, followed
mm.
by the Bronx. So those two boroughs really gave. I don't know why I'm hearing the echo, but yeah, those two boroughs are what really gives New York its flavor. You know what I'm saying? And then, I would say third will be Manhattan. The neighborhoods of Manhattan, Harlem, Spanish Harlem, Washington Heights, that's where the Dominicans are at. That's the area. And then the Lower East Side is another Puerto Rican area. So that's the breakdown of the boroughs.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I never got a chance to go to Queens or to Staten Island, man, but I was all over the Bronx and Brooklyn. And just because I always, whenever I think New York, those are the two that I always think of, man, Bronx and Brooklyn. And not just that, but whenever it comes to movies or television, whatever it is, it's always Bronx and Brooklyn. and or Harlem, right? But they don't
Yeah.
really say Manhattan; it's Harlem.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
so so that's kind of what always captured my eye. No, I get it, man. It's like it's like in Los Angeles. I mean, you got so many different sections, right? You got, you know, Sela, Southeast LA. You got the
Mhm.
East Side. You got the San Gabriel Valley, San Fernando Valley. You got the Harbor area. You got the Antelope Valley, Nela, Northeast LA, the West Side, and every section, kind of has a way that they do their things. Some have, resemble a lot more, like the Stella, SGB, the East Side. They kind of resemble themselves a little bit more as opposed to, say, the West Side or the Harbor area, or South LA sections like that, right? Um, when I was out there, I don't know if it was just because it was Puerto Rican weekend, but I
Mhm.
mean, dog, Puerto Ricans are some very, very proud people. I saw a lot of flags. I saw the cars, everything like that. Is there a Puerto Rican section, or is it just kind of spread out throughout New York?
Yeah, I heard what you were saying. With how LA has their certain neighborhoods,
Mhm.
everybody has their neighborhood in New York City.
Okay,
So if you had to say what is the Puerto Rican neighborhood in New York City, it would really the official would be where you went to 116 Spanish Harlem.
got
The
it.
Dominican area, the Dominicans got Washington Heights. All right. If you're
Mhm.
Italian, it's Bensonhurst, Bay Ridge, um, Shisha Bay. In the Bronx, they got an Italian area which is Morris Park. Obviously, if you're African American, your neighborhood is Harlem, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. If you're Caribbean, it's Crown Heights. In the Bronx, there's a Caribbean area called Wakefield, all the way at the top towards the east. That's where a lot of Caribbean, the Jamaicans and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So everyone has a little area, but outside of that, everything is mixed up. So like where you at in the South Bronx, the Bronx is the most Latino borough in New York City.
Okay,
That borough has the highest population of Latinos in the city. If you go on Wikipedia, it's 57% Latino. The South Bronx is mostly Puerto Rican, African American, and now that's when I was growing up. Now there's more Dominicans. So when you go out there, that's the mix. So where you were staying at is more. It's technically the percentage is higher on the Latino side, but there's a big African American population too. Same thing with like Bushwick, Brooklyn. Bushwick, Brooklyn has, I would say, 50-50 Puerto Rican with African American. All right. Some areas, it'll be, I would say like Canarसी's Irish and Italian. So there's everyone has an official neighborhood, and then there's a lot of mixed up neighborhoods where everybody kind of lives together.
got it,
So that's
got it.
how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, when we talk about like Latinos, man, yeah, you could find Puerto Ricans here, you could find Dominicans here, but not the way you're gonna find them there in
Nah.
New York, man. It was
Right.
deep over there. Here on this side, you're definitely gonna find, a lot of people with Mexican background. For the most part, for the majority, that's basically what you're gonna run into. People with a
Right.
Mexican background, whether it's them from Mexico, their parents, their grandparents, great grandparents, whatever it may be. You're also gonna run into Central American, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Honduras, Guatemala, uh, even some South America, Valenzuela, right? But
Mhm.
for the most part, it's gonna be, some sort of Mexican background. Um, that's why it was a little bit of a culture shock. But I mean, I knew that going in. I was just like, okay, let's see
You didn't think
the
you were gonna see it.
as you guys said, the Latino flavor out there was gonna be a little bit different, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And just hearing the Espanol, and I'll tell you this, man, I had never seen so many black people speaking Spanish. It was crazy, man. I was just like, damn, this is badass. I was there with my wife, and I was just like, look, vieja, look at this, man, because you don't really see that,
Yeah.
here in LA. You don't really see Like
Yeah.
you
All right. Let
Spanish.
me let me break it down, brother. I'm gonna rewind one part where you asked what was going on that week. You came off. You came is in New York. The official start of the summer in New York City is when the Puerto Ricans have their parade. So the day before, the day you were there, was the 116th Spanish Harlem Festival. The next day is the Puerto Rican Day Parade. So that whole weekend, that's and then in Williamsbridge, there's a Puerto Rican Day Parade. So that whole weekend is when the Boricuas they set it off for the summer. Everyone knows once those festivals come on, the summer started. So when you went there, it was off the hook. It was just popping. So I just wanted to touch on that, what was going on and why you saw what you saw.
Okay.
Um Now, as far as that's one thing I wanted to talk with you a bit was I'm gonna tell a little story, and then I'm gonna touch on the racial aspects of what you saw, black people speaking Spanish. I remember, and the same thing like what you said, in the majority when I was growing up, the majority were Puerto Ricans. If you were Spanish, Latino, and speaking Spanish in New York in the 70s and 80s, definitely, we had the biggest numbers. Then towards the 90s, the Dominicans started coming up. So I think they're right behind us there, and they got big numbers right now. Right now in 2024, you got everything. It's like everything like in LA. When you was young, you guys were the only guys in big numbers out there. Now it's everybody's out in LA, and they got sizable numbers, the Salvadorans. So that's the same thing we're experiencing in New York. But when I remember, man, in the 80s, I had there was in my whole school there was two Mexicans, a girl and a guy, and my man, his name was Jose Sanchez. He was part of my crew. He was a Mexican, but he grew up in New York, so he didn't sound like you guys. He sounded like us. So I
Right.
would go, I would go check him, and he lived towards the Grand Concourse, and that was maybe 6 blocks away. So I would go check him here and there. And the girl who's Mexican, she lived on his block, and her name was Veronica, and she had a primo that came from LA. This was the late 80s. It was 89. And yo, homie, I'm telling you, bro, when I saw him, he had Cortezes on. He had the socks, the white socks below the knee with some shorts, with a Dodgers shirt on and slick back hair. And we looked
Right.
at him like, yo, what? We were like, yo, who is this dude? So she was like, yo, this is my primo. He's coming for the summer. He's having some problems. I think he was on the run. Something happened, some street shit.
Okay.
And his aunt bring him out. I don't know, something was gonna. They didn't want him in. I don't know what this. I don't even. It's been a lot of years. I remember something happened with him that he was just laying low. So, he was there for a little bit, and then I went to go check him. I went to go see my man, and then we were talking with him a little bit, and I sat down. I was like, yo, so how you like New York? And he was like, yo, I dig it, man, but yo, you guys, you Ricans, man, you guys are too cool with the mayates, Holmes. And I was like, yo, what? Now, this is for American me. And I was like, yo, I never even heard that. I was like, what you told? He's like, yo,
Yeah.
the man's Holmes. I was like, now we call them morenos, that's our word.
Right.
So, and I was like,
Right.
and it always stuck with me. I was like, it was like a foreign thing to me. You know what I'm saying? So to get back to what you're saying, as years went on, I got to understand what's going on in LA. We really ain't gonna touch on that. Try to respect things, but I could tell that there's a difference in how y'all see things and how we see things. So I'm a break. For everybody in LA, because I'm gonna assume your people, they from the West Coast, so they can understand where we coming from, right? On the East Coast, the Latinos are mostly Caribbean Hispanics.
Mhm.
And the Caribbean Hispanics, they're depending on what country, all our countries that speak Spanish, there's a different the ingredients is a little different. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
And in Mexico, it's Spanish blood and native, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Guatemala, Spanish blood, mostly native. And the Caribbean, depending in Cuba, Puerto Rico, or the Dominican Republic, the flavor the ingredients is a little different. So So with Puerto Ricans, the ingredients is Espanol, Native, and African American and African, right?
Mhm.
Cuba, I would say, they have a real small native population, mostly Spain. You get a lot of white looking Cubans, and then you got the real black looking ones. The Dominican Republic, they're probably the most darkest overall out of everybody. You know what I'm saying? Because Haiti's next to them, most Dominicans are on the dark side. All right. And then, with Colombia, they have a three-way mix, Colombia native. They have, so everybody has, and then Argentina, they look European. So we all
Mhm.
speak Spanish, but the flavor's a little mixed, in a different area. So with the Caribbean Latino, your grandmother might be morena, you know what I'm saying? You
Right,
know,
right.
your tia is gonna have blonde hair and blue eyes. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
everybody else looks like Mark Anthony and Jennifer Lopez, that time,
Mm.
that skin tone, you know what I'm saying? So it's hard, for us to really have those politics because, la abuela, ella negra, you know what I'm saying? And then,
Yeah,
so we
yeah,
see things a
no.
little different.
I
So I know when you walked in, you was in Spanish Harlem, you
mm,
saw black Hispanics walking around.
right.
Or and you saw light ones and you saw tan ones and that's the reason why we never the politics were not the same, because the racial makeup is a little different. and
Right.
and I figured that out later with you guys, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
one thing in New York, if you are Spanish speaking, we got everybody has their little, when they get off the boat, the ones that are there. Like, I know for a fact that the Mexicans, used to pick on maybe the Guatemalans when they first touched down, and the Salvadorans when they first
Mm,
touched down.
yes.
We jumped on the Dominicans when they first came off the boat. You know what I'm saying? But once you start living, then everybody, it's all love. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just life, and that's what happens to us. When we first came off the boat, bro, they jumped on us. Think about it, man. When I grew up in the United States, when I grew up, say in the 80s and the 70s, bro, there was only three places in the United States that had Latinos, and that was the West Coast with the Mexicans, down in Miami with the Cubans, and then you had the Puerto Ricans in New York. That was it, bro. You cannot put your mind as to the way it is now in 2024, where everybody, the borders open, and there was no Indians, there was no Arabs, there was none of that, no Armenians, none of that. So we were the only ones speaking Spanish in New York, bro. So we had it rough. We had to get our respect. We had to put in work. We had to bust heads when we had to. The same way you guys had to put in your work out there to get your respect. You know what I'm saying? So that happens to everybody. When you come off the boat, the ones that been there, we had to fight the Italians and the Irish, and then everybody that came behind us. So that's just life. But that's the reason why we see things a little different than you guys. You know what I'm saying? And the
Yeah,
politics are not the same.
yeah, and you know what? A lot of that has been changing, man. Growing up in the 80s and the 90s, it was definitely a different time in Los Angeles. It was definitely a different time. It was much, much more of a war zone than it is today. Today, things are a little bit more calmado,
Yeah.
and it has been for quite a few years now. It's definitely, gentrification has been going on, but you still got the barrios, you still got, different areas, but the relationships have definitely changed. It's not what it used to be, just like what you were talking about, the way it was over there, years ago. Yeah, it was similar here as well, but it's a different time. We're in 2024. It's definitely not the same, not the
Mhm.
same that it was, 30 years ago. So 30 years ago it was a little bit more, you gotta lace up them boots, man, because it's the trenches. um Today it's a little bit more calmado, a little bit more relaxed. Don't get it wrong, you can still get it, but
Mhm.
it's not as what it used to be once upon a time. One thing that you and I talked a little bit off the air was let's get into the gang aspect a little bit, man.
Mhm.
How do gangs work over there? Because I know it tripped me out when I heard about gangs in certain cities where there is no territory. You're just part of this gang,
Right,
and
right.
your enemy could be like your neighbor. And I'm like, wow, really? There's no territories because here gangs are, by territories for the most part. And even that a little bit has kind of changed, with expanding and people moving out and dudes move out and they start clicking somewhere else and stuff like that. And the Inland Empire, shout outs to everybody in the IE. And but for the most part, it's territory. You were telling me a little bit something that, hey man, it's kind of difficult because the population.
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, in New York, you're never gonna get that territorial situation you got in LA. Like I would watch movies from LA
Mhm.
or just look at pictures of LA and I'll be like, how do they have gangs out there? Everything is houses. It never made sense to me, you know? And then
Right.
like I was, you heard of Alex Alonso from Street TV, Alex Alonso? You ever heard
Oh
of
yeah,
him?
yeah, yeah, yes, yes,
Right, right,
yes.
right. So he was the dude that made the LA gang map where you go on Google and you could see the territories.
Mhm.
So I was on there one day and I was looking at Florencia. I was looking at their territory and I was like, bro, that's like as big as half the Bronx. I said,
Yeah.
bro, that could never happen in New York. Here's
Uh-huh.
the thing about NYC. In LA, 90, I would say 80% of the people, maybe it might be higher. I'm gonna just throw that number 80. They own homes.
Mm.
There's not a lot of apartment builders. Am I right? Apartment
N-
builders ain't like that. Like,
when you compare it to where you're from, absolutely not. It does not even come close. Now, for people that grew up around apartments in Los Angeles, they're gonna come out and say like, "Well, there's apartments everywhere." But I'm telling everybody
no,
right
nah,
now,
nah.
from LA,
What you
if
consider
you
a
go,
lot ain't nah.
exactly, exactly, dog. And I'm telling you this, man. Three-story high apartments is rare out here. You find them, but it's rare. When I was out in New York, dog, I'm seeing 20,
Bro, the
25,
the
30
projects are
story.
skyscrapers, bro. The
Yeah,
projects are
I'm like,
skyscrapers.
yeah,
So
I'm looking
so
way up. I'm like, damn, these
yeah,
are
so
apartments and they're everywhere.
yeah, so here's the thing, right? Mostly everybody in LA, they own homes. So you get a population that people stay there. People don't, when tu madre compra una casa, she's not selling that in 10 years. They
Right.
trying to pass it down. So I can
Mhm.
understand how you guys are rooted. Your community really don't flip like that. So you guys are cradle to the grave. You've been living in the same area for the longest. And some of those houses get passed down, right? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, you got a lot of people that,
Yeah,
oh yeah, my abuelita used to live here,
right.
or yeah, you do have that. Like I said, a lot of that is a little bit more old today. A lot of people have moved out of state and to
Yeah.
other areas, but
But that's
yes,
still
yes,
the makeup, right? So in New
yes.
York, 90% of people rent. So you
Okay.
don't get, there's a lot of turnover in your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember, I remember when I had my homies in my hood, bro, like within 3 years, five of them left. And that's normal. Somebody find, your mother finds a better rent across town. So you never get that this is mine type of feeling inside. You know what I'm saying? So you don't get that territorial stuff in New York. New York is more based on like organized crime type drug dealing. The Italians are doing what they're doing. They're not what they used to be at all. They don't run the streets in New York at all. But you got what you have are more like drug gangs where you got a crew of dudes. This is their block. A block in New York is what you saw from corner to corner. That's
Okay.
where they hustling, and that's their little territory, one little block. Around the corner might be another little operation. 2 blocks away might be a whole different crew. That's only 2 blocks. That's around the corner.
Right.
So you cannot control an area and say, yo, like I was looking at the Rolling 60s. territory. And I was like, that is not happening here. It just can't because the math don't add up. For one, you can't G check everybody that walks in your hood. Yo, where you from, homie? That you if you did that, you lose your voice. You got so much people walking through your block is
Yeah.
ridiculous. So when
Yeah.
you got a a drug gang or a drug operation, you worried about two things: who's pumping on my block and who's trying to take my work. That's the only thing they're fighting about. They're not fighting about, this is my hood, and you out of bounds, and you cross from here, where you from. You're not gonna hear that. It's about money, who's robbing me, and you ain't pumping no work on my block. That's the nature of New York. And there's really no real gangs. Like even right now, you had like in the 90s, the Latin Kings used to run the jails in New York. Bro, there was no Latin King area, bro. There was no neighbor where all this is all Latin King. No, 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 no. Even right now, you got these fake. To me, they're fake Bloods and Crips. If you're in New York and you're saying you're Blood and Crip, to me, you fake. You know what I'm saying? That you saw that shit on TV. There's no area where they say that, oh, you walking into a blood area. It just doesn't work that way. You got some bloods that are pumping on one block, they holding it down right there, and that's what they worried about. You could go around the corner and they ain't worried about that. So that's the different makeup because of the way the cities are designed. So it's more about getting money in New York, and that's you got your crew, and you just make sure nobody's coming at you. Somebody busts at you, you bust back. That's the whole makeup. But that whole the whole setup like that of where you guys are from, that it just wouldn't work. It just doesn't work. So
No,
that's the
you know
difference.
what? Look, I could see exactly what you're talking about because it's just like I was saying earlier, man, is LA is bigger when we're talking about the land that it covers, but New York is bigger when we talk about population. It's so condensed. There's stores all over the place, every block, and the apartments go so high. There's people walking outside all the time. At least that's what I saw. And it's
Yeah,
like,
no, you saw,
yeah.
you saw the real deal.
Right. So, here you got your residential area. So you're not gonna have a bunch of people just walking up and down the blocks all the time, man. And again, for anybody that's here from Los Angeles, you may be saying like, nah, people walk around all the time. No, not compared to New York, not compared to what I saw, man. People walking all the time everywhere, man. And you're all bunched up, getting inside to
Yeah,
the subway. You guys are running the subways together. Everything. There's people outside. It didn't matter where I went, man. There was people outside walking all the time, and I was just like, man, look at this, man. So yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, man. And like I said, there are apartments, and to us here, we can say like, man, this neighborhood has a lot of apartments, but it does not even come close to the apartments that you guys have out there, man. It is on a whole new level. You guys got skyscraper apartments everywhere, and it was quite a sight to see. I kind of wanted, I honestly, man, I kind of wanted to go in somebody's apartment just to go check it out, man, and go on the fire escapes because we have very, very, very few fire escapes here, man. You got to go to certain buildings, certain apartments in the downtown areas here, there, that have fire escapes where you just open the window, go kick it on the fire escape, smoke a cigarette or something like that. But everything that I knew about New York was just basically everything that I seen in The Warriors, The Wanderers, Goodfellas, Carlito's Way. You know
mm,
what I mean? And I'm sure for people that have not been to Los Angeles, you guys are probably watching, Blood In, Blood Out and Boulevard
yeah.
Nights and American Me,
Colors, yeah.
all that stuff, man. But what, um, what, what is your take to Los Angeles whenever you think LA? Like what's your take, man? Because just like you're talking about New York, Los Angeles, you got your areas. One thing that I do hate, man, is when I turn on the radio it's a bunch of people that are not from LA that moved here from somewhere else, right?
Mhm.
And then they have their little parties or whatever, and it's like, man, nobody from LA is from LA. They're all from other places. Like, man, heck nah, dog. That's because you're over there living in Encino or Pacific Palisades, man. You know what I mean? Uh, there are so many people, most people from LA are from actually LA, dog.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
you do have a lot of people that move here and then try to, they have their own little posse and everything. It's like, oh man, everybody's from somewhere else. No, that's a lot of people that moved over here to try their acting careers or try to get
Yeah.
into radio, try to get into television. And that is not most of the population. But
Well,
what's your thoughts, man, when it
yeah,
comes to
let me say, like in Manhattan, I don't know, I hear echo, my man. I don't know what's I hear echo or
we're good
something.
on our side.
Oh yeah, all right, cool.
Yeah, we're good.
So like in Manhattan, that's where you're gonna see most people that are not from New York, because you got a lot of Americanos that grew up in Kentucky and been watching
Mm,
movies, and it's their dream to have an apartment in Manhattan, and they'll pay two, four, $5,000 for like 100 square feet. Most people in the outer boroughs, so that's really Manhattan. Outside from the hood areas of Manhattan, like Harlem or Washington Heights or Spanish Harlem or Lower East Side, most New Yorkers are gonna that are been there for a long time. Their family's been there. It's in the outer boroughs. That's the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. That's where you're gonna really see you're gonna see people who's touched down. But then again, we're in 2024. There's a lot of foreigners now.
mm,
I didn't, what the way sometimes I don't even recognize the city, man, from the city I grew up in, and you probably feel the same way. You guys are not too far from the border. But I could imagine what's going on over there. So that's the thing. But if you're gonna find, like in Manhattan, you find a lot of people who are from another part of the country and had that dream to just have say they have an apartment in Manhattan, they got a New York address, and it's Manhattan, really, where you see a lot of that. Bona fide New Yorkers, they live in the outer boroughs, Now, as far as the five boroughs go, the only one that's attached to the mainland of the United States is the Bronx. All the other boroughs are islands.
mhm.
Manhattan is an island, Staten Island is an island, and Brooklyn and Queens are attached to Staten Island. I mean, to Long Island. So that's the fun. It's a weird city, man. Like you said, it's surrounded by water. You got to go to bridges. You got to go through a lot of bridges. And let me
Mhm.
tell you, bro, if unless you got your paycheck in your pocket to go from the Bronx to Staten Island, yo, you better have your paycheck with you to cross all those. They're gonna tax you heavily, man. You better have $100 bill on you to get from the Bronx to Staten Island. That's just the way it is. Every bridge is $20. I remember when them bridges were only $8, but that's the way it is, So that's the setup of New York. It's not designed like any other city in the United States. It's one mainland surrounded by islands. So it probably gives you this flavor. And that's another thing about New York, because you have islands. You know what islands do? They produce their own culture. So when I would go visit my family in Brooklyn, bro, I could tell they were from Brooklyn, because
Okay.
it's funny. You wouldn't know no difference, anywhere else, but we know, because it's just everything segregated by water. Each borough just produces its own culture, so that's a funny thing that I even noticed about living in New York. I could tell a dude from the Bronx from a dude from Brooklyn to Queens in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Just things we pick up, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. One thing that when people think about LA or California, they think about the beach. And I want to go ahead and tell everybody this. If you're thinking about the LA skyline, downtown LA, it is not next to the water, Holmes. All right. For anybody who is not from Los Angeles, you are gonna have to travel. If you're in downtown LA, you're not seeing the water. All right. Not like New York City when I was there. There was we went out on the boat, and you're able to see the city and all that. You go out to the Pacific Ocean, you're not seeing the LA skyline. You need to travel to get out to the actual water, the city itself. Yeah, you got LA County there, Santa Monica and all that, but the city of Los Angeles itself, all the buildings, the popular buildings, the US Bank building and all that stuff, the good skyline of LA, it is not near the water, man. So anybody not from LA, you're not seeing the city off the water like that. It's not there, not like New York is.
Yeah, yeah. And we only really have two beaches, Coney Island and Orchard Beach. So even though
I
you're
went
on
to
the
Coney
water, if you
Island,
want to,
man.
yeah, 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 that's a treat, man. I've been going there since I was a kid. They got a nice pier. You do some fishing. So Coney is cool. You know, but
Yeah,
that movie, The Warriors. That was based on a real scenario, and you could pull this up on YouTube. It's called
the
the
Greeks or something, the Greek soldiers or something like
nah, nah. I'm
that,
gonna
right?
tell you, it's you could pull this up. It's the whole Avenue gang meeting in 1972.
Oh,
And
oh,
there's a
got
the H it's HOE Whole Avenue gang meeting in 1972. The video is on YouTube. You could look it up when we get off. And what that did, there was at that time the gangs were funny. They looked at like the Warriors. That's where that movie was based on. People were wearing MC jackets,
you. Uh-huh.
and let me tell you, you had some old timers in your video that were wearing MC jackets in the
Yes,
festival, right? Those are
yes,
the,
yeah,
but they
yeah,
weren't young, right? They were really old timers that was dressing like that, right?
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
thought actually, I thought they were wearing cuts like bikers.
it's bikers. That's the way the
Okay.
gangs used to dress in New York in the early 70s. So what I'm saying is Warriors is based on a true story. Hollywood takes things and they flip and they remix it. But that whole gang meeting that happened in the movie, that's Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx. That's not the
Mm,
hood. That's a nice area. That's a nice park.
okay.
That meeting was based on the whole Avenue meeting in 1972. They say that because of that meeting is the reason why hip hop was able to start. Before that meeting, you couldn't go to certain areas and just party. You know what I'm saying? Because the gangs were thick. Like I said, there was never territory, but they would jump on you if you weren't wearing certain colors. See, that you were very identifiable at that
Mhm.
time. The gangs did they dressed really different. It was, dude, you lit up like a Christmas tree if you was a gang member in New York in the early 70s. You had the biker cuts. The black gangs dressed like that, the Puerto Rican gangs, and the white boys dressed like that. That was the way the streets were at that time. But the
Okay.
biggest gangs, like anything else, is always the black and Hispanic gangs, right?
Mhm.
So they had a meeting in 1972, and the video is online. I wish you could pull it up, bro. It's online. And and after that meeting, that's when all everybody was like, "Yo, we're gonna chill," because there was a lot of killing. After that, that's when everybody was able to party in different parts of the Bronx and bring their sound systems without getting robbed. And that's how hip hop started in the Bronx. If you
Mm,
didn't have that gang meeting where everybody said, let's chill, who knows if it would have went the way it did. But that's the reason. And a lot of people don't talk about that. It was because of that meeting. And there was another documentary that kind of touched on it.
mhm.
But that's so that movie is based on a true story, really. They just,
Mm,
Hollywood does what they do with it. But yeah, that's the way the gangs used to dress, bro, in this early. But by 79, when that movie came out, hip hop was already getting going, and people didn't dress like the gangs didn't dress like that. Hip hop destroyed the gangs because then that got phased out. You see what I'm saying? So
right.
by 79, 80, nobody was dressing in biker cuts, and that was all out the window. And by the 80s, that was totally out the window. You
Mm,
know, give you a
mm,
little
mm.
history on that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think hip hop really changed the game. Even out here on the West Coast, man. The hip hop, in my opinion, started changing the traditional old school cholo look to something else. Hey, Lord Spike, exactly. it's only 20 miles away. Yes, as opposed to New York, where it's right there on the water, man. It's quite a scene, man. Hey, is there prone? Is there a rivalry between Jersey and New York?
Nah, man, nah,
Okay.
nah. There's no rivalry when nobody's fighting. I mean, the rivalry between Jersey and New York is business rivalry more than anything. New Jersey's always trying to take businesses from New York.
Mm,
That ain't got nothing to do with the streets, bro. I've been in clubs in New York, and the girls from Jersey come down, and it's all good. You know, there's no rivalry like that. Street rivalry. It's more
no,
business.
no. Yeah, yeah. I'm just thinking like if I'm watching that Out for Justice by Steven Seagal, man, and he's all
Nah.
like, he's in Brooklyn, he's all like, yeah, don't give me none of that stuff that's from Jersey. I don't want any of that stuff from Jersey.
Well,
And
because
then
see, Jersey is more like the little brother of New York.
okay,
It's everybody that lives in Jersey, they started out in New York, their grandparents. New York is a place where you eventually you want to get out. For a New Yorker, man, it's hectic to live there, bro. So I can understand people want a little slower pace. It's fast paced. You were tired from your vacation, bro. You need a vacation from your vacation, just running around there. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So when people wanted to get away, they went to Jersey. Jersey suburban, Now
okay,
Newark is a live little city. There's a lot of shit going on there, but for the most part, that's a way to get away. Long Island is a way to get away. Connecticut. They and when you're in New York, it's called the tri-state area. It's New York, Jersey, Connecticut. We
mm,
all there. That's like the brothers and sisters of each state. We all connected in some way because New York has built those populations. So everybody in those two states got family touched down in New York. So now, the rivalry between Jersey and New York is a more business rivalry. They always trying to take. There was one time they tried to take the New York Stock Exchange, back in the like 80s or something. They offered the New York Stock Exchange a tax deal and say, "Yo, move it to Jersey, bro." So it's more like that. But as far as the people, ain't no street stuff. That's a joke. Nah, it ain't nothing like
oh
that.
man. Hey,
Nah.
well, this has been great, man. I was in we went to the I guess the northern side of the Bronx where I guess the trains don't travel as much throughout the city up there. Um, where like Little Italy of the Bronx is at. I
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw a portrait of Sonny from A Bronx Tale, which is one of my favorite movies, and I was told that they actually shot that movie in Queens.
yeah. They did in a store. Like I think it was Astoria.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll touch on Arthur Avenue. What you saw in that movie did go on
okay,
in the 60s, in the
got it.
50s. Right when Little Italy, Arthur Avenue is surrounded by black and Latino neighborhoods.
Mm,
The minute when you walk into the Bronx Zoo, that's it, that you out of bounds. So back in at that time, if you were black and Latino and you went in their neighborhoods, you had a problem. That was real. And Webster Avenue, there was when you set the bridge, it's Webster Avenue. Webster Avenue is where things start to change. You know what I'm saying? So that did go on. That stuff does not go on now at all, bro. That does not go on. That didn't go on in the 2000s. It didn't go on in the 90s, and barely in the 80s. That you when you hear about that, that was a real thing in the 70s, 60s, 50s. That's when that was going on. You know, you don't see that no more. So it's a time period of the movie. The movie was built that's like 60s. So yeah, that was real. That was definitely real. And the same thing, if they came in our neighborhoods, they had a problem.
mhm,
That's the way it was. I remember my side of the family, they grew up in Brooklyn,
mhm.
and they told me that it was the blacks and the Puerto Ricans fighting the Irish and the Italians in the streets. Totally different situation that you don't see those things no more. That's another reason you got to understand. You got to understand how we see things. When if you got time, I want you to go and Google South Bronx in the 70s and go to images. All right.
Okay.
It looked like a nuclear weapon went off. Where you went in 149, bro, that's cleaned up.
Mhm.
If you would have went there in 1980s and the 70s, you would not have had a good time. The people have not changed, but they built they bring it back. It looked like a nuclear weapon went off, and I'm not even exaggerating. You could pull it up right now or when you got time. So you have to understand we went through a lot living in New York.
Mhm.
We They basically unleashed an economic, you know, weapon on us. They took the banks out of our areas, they dumped dope in our areas, and they basically try to destroy us. That's all built up now. So when we touched down, it was us against them. And African Americans and us, we were going through it the same way. You know what I'm saying? So there was a bond there that we had to stick together because we were getting attacked, and we had to go against the others that were running the system. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we got along with them, because we went through the same struggles. Our neighborhoods were destroyed. What happened in Harlem happened in the South Bronx. Bro, trust me, East Spanish Harlem was just looked real bad at those times. The population of New York actually went up. It was at an all-time low in the 70s and 80s. A lot of burnt down buildings, bro. It was crazy. You need to look at these pictures on YouTube. I can't even describe it. It literally looked like they dropped a nuclear weapon on those on the South Bronx. So
Mhm.
we went through a lot of we had to fight together against those who controlled the economics of that city. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we have, I would say we've always had a good relationship with them, because we went through the same struggles and had to fight side by side. You know what I'm saying? But that's what it is. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I wanted you guys in LA to kind of understand. Because let me tell you something. For me, when I see a Mexicano, a Venezolano, un Colombiano, when I see anybody that's from another Latin country, at the end of the day, what I see is we were all part of one country at one time, the Spanish Empire. That's the reason we all speak the same language.
Mhm.
The same laws that was in Puerto Rico was the same laws in Mexico. All right.
Mhm.
But so I got love for anybody that's from a Latin country, bro. I don't, some people say, oh, this one hates this one. I see it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? And another reason why we use the term Latino is because the end of the day, they all look at us as the same. No matter what country we come from, we all grouped. So Latino is the umbrella of anybody that's speaking Spanish. That's the group we part of. So I got love for the Dominicans, the Cubans. I go down to Miami. I'm gonna be in Florida next week. I'm going down to Calle Ocho in Little Havana. I'm gonna go get me my Cuban sandwich. It's all love, because we had the one thing that unites a people before anything else is language. When a
Right.
person speaks your same language, that's why the United States and
Right.
England got love for each other. They fight side by side in any war. You mess with England, the United States is going to jump in.
Mhm.
You mess with the United States, England jumps in, Australia jumps in. Because what unites them is they common, that we all different, we do a little thing, but that language and that background is all the same from Mexico down to Argentina to the Caribbean, and that's how I see it. You know what I'm
If
saying?
y if you find yourself in trouble in another country that doesn't speak your language, the first person you're trying to find is someone that speaks your same language.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like in Spanish Harlem, bro. There's a sizable Mexican population now living there. Why? Because what they gonna do? Move to Harlem? They might
Mhm.
as well move with the Boricuas and open up shop, and at least they could speak a little Spanish to people. So And I'm sure they've done that in on the West Coast. The Salvadorans and
mm,
they move close to you guys because it's the familiarity. You know what I'm saying? So that's
right.
that's another reason why I wanted to jump on, because I wanted the people on the West Coast to understand how we see things. Because I've talked to a lot of my Mexican homies, and they trying to figure out what's up, how we, how why we do what we do, and how
Right.
we do what we do. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted it was there was I was looking forward to always, you know, talk to somebody from the West Coast to break it down, to break bread. We could throw some ideas off each other. I always had it in my mind. I said, man, imagine if I was one day I was out in LA and I was moving a brick and got caught and I had to go to county.
Mm.
How, what politics? I was like, I was wondering about how un Boricua in New York goes in and they're like, yo, where you from, Holmes? And I'm like, yo, I'm from the BX. What category I go into? You know what I'm saying? So I was always curious about that. And we could
Yeah.
break that down the situation. Let's say I went out, caught some work, went out to LA, bought some work, got caught up,
Mm,
little fed,
mhm,
went to the county. You know what I'm
mhm.
saying? They're gonna hit me with a 3 to 5. Nothing crazy, but I gotta stay out there for a minute. How's that scenario with a dude? We Latino, but totally. How would that break down from what you know?
Here's what I could tell you, man. Here's all I could tell you is that when I was locked up, we had a Puerto Rican riding with us. We had a Puerto Rican riding with us, and he looked, he wasn't like super dark skin, but he
Mm,
looked a little bit more moreno
mm,
than he did Latino or whatever. But he looked a little bit, but he wasn't like super dark skin, but he was Boricua, and he was kicking it, man. He was kicking it. So um yeah, that's what I would tell you, big dog. But
I was curious. I was just curious about that because the politics is y'all got that strict politics out there. It's a little more fluid out here. It's more
yeah,
about in the jails. I don't play yourself. Don't get don't
man,
don't you carry yourself as a man. Don't get me
right.
wrong. You got your group, but it's a
Mhm.
little more loose. It's a little more loose. So yeah,
Rome, this has been great, homie. This has
yeah,
been
yeah,
great,
definitely, man.
man.
I had a good
I've
time, bro.
really, yeah, I've really enjoyed this, man. I enjoyed being there at the Boricua festival with what you saw me being at. It was a blast and a half. Man, it was huge. It was a lot bigger than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
Um, I loved it, man. I loved it. I loved being there. I loved mingling, just seeing the different flavor and the culture and everything. It was a great time, man. I loved it. I got to make my way back.
Yeah,
One
I always say, man, New York is a city you gotta see before you die, bro. It's one of those
right.
places that, you know, but I will say this about New York, man. Once you get older, it gets tiring. It'll tire you out, bro.
Mm,
That's a
mm,
city where like my moms and all them, they bounced already. They were like, it's too
right.
much, because it's
It's moving,
expensive to
man.
live here. It's always moving. It's
Yeah.
not for nobody who's in their 60s. Now, don't get me wrong. There's old people there, but I
Mm,
got a feeling they did because they either want to be or they got a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? But
okay.
like for the average Joe, man, it could be tiring. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Definitely, definitely. And it's not cheap to live here, bro. Like, it ain't, and unless you've been here and got some roots in here to come out of here out of nowhere, I don't know how you would do it, bro. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you, when I was young,
Mhm.
you couldn't give away a house in the South Bronx, bro.
Okay.
You couldn't give one away. You go on where you were at in 149 and you go to Zwillow, those houses are going for 650. I could have,
Mm,
and in LA, I went and looked at LA prices. They crazy out there. But I'm just saying, bro, when I was young, bro, you had the government was giving away the houses like they doing in Detroit right now,
mhm.
where you could buy a house for $1. That's what people were doing. So it's crazy. I don't know how people live out here. Like if I moved out and moved back in, I don't know how I would do it, man. because it's
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I've
expensive to
looked
live
a
out here.
lot of people from LA end up moving to Arizona,
Yeah,
Nevada,
yeah,
Texas, New Mexico, Colorado. Yeah, man, there a lot of people are moving out, man. Hey, just
yeah.
real quick before we wrap it up,
Right.
if to the best of your knowledge, is New York more of a Yankees town or Mets town?
It's a Yankees town, bro.
Okay, Jets or
Only if you live in Queens, then everyone loves the Mets. But man, everybody else that it's more of a Yankees town.
Jets or Giants?
I would go with Giants, but not by a large. It's a couple of percentage points. That's pretty much down the middle. I
Okay,
would say.
Knicks
Yeah,
or
I was.
Nets?
Uh, I don't follow basketball like that, man. If I had to, I would lean towards the Knicks.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying? If I had to lean, the percentage ain't big. The biggest percentage would definitely be the Yankees and the Mets.
all right,
Yeah,
okay. I thought so.
yeah, yeah.
All right, boom. Hey,
All right,
man,
brother, man, it
this
was
this
good,
was
bro. I
yeah, this
hope
was
we
freedom,
educated the
dog.
people, and the family out there, man, is good. Yo, support this brother, subscribe, and we'll keep in touch, man.
Yes, sir, man. Shouts to the Bronx. Shouts to New York.
All
Have yourself a
right,
buenas
and,
noches,
and
brother.
salute to East Los, salute to East Los. Even though I don't know if you're from East Los, pero
Yes, sir.
oh,
Yes,
you
sir.
are. All right,
Yes,
all right,
sir.
all right, brother. So yo, it was good, man. I'm gonna let you go, man.
Pues, carnal. Take care of yourself,
Okay,
brother.
suave.
All right.
Later.
And there you guys have it, man. Shots prone. He's at B vacation in Florida. Just too much to cover in just one interview, man. But wow, dog. What a time. What a time. And hope to make my way back back there one day, and hopefully I could meet up with them and we could break bread in person, man. But with that, familia, I'm gonna go ahead and tap up out of here. I know we didn't really get a chance to get into to the chats and chop it up with you guys on there, but we'll probably do it again. All right. As always, live your life like you're on the road. Be aware of your surroundings. Always keep a safe distance. Blood, make sure you live below to make sure. Until next time, this is Ed the Troll Trucker for my man Prone from the Bronx. Over and out.